Well, hello and welcome back to GearHeadGeeks, where in this video we are going to be assembling a TS400 engine. A friend of mine who is coming over right now just had the cases powder coated. He's gotten them back, and so he's going to come over. We are going to assemble this engine, and what we'll do is I'm going to be showing you and him how to assemble this engine piece by piece. So stay tuned and we'll get right to it as soon as he gets here. And this is my friend John, and this is his TS400. And we have just gone through the parts and laid everything out. And here we have our engine cases, freshly powder coated, and they are absolutely gorgeous. You couldn't ask for anything nicer. I mean, look at the finish on those. They're just beautiful. So we've been laying out parts. The cylinder is all cleaned up and nice. The cylinder head is beautiful. We got gaskets here, all the cases, and now we have our engine parts. We'll be going through all the transmission parts, and here's all the new seals. We got new bearings. Here's our clutch, and the clutch is going to be just fine. We'll put all that together. We got some cleaning to do on the ignition. This is just full of parts at the moment, so we'll get through to all of those, but it's all laid out fairly well, nice and clean. Everything is going to be real nice, and when we start to assemble this engine, we'll get it all. We'll go through every little piece and talk about each one and how the transmission works and what the transmission needs, and there'll be a little cleaning here and there. Back over on the bench, we have the crankshaft, which is just a little carboned up. We got some cleaning to do on it, so when we go to put it, before we put it together, we'll clean that. But it's in really good shape. This crank is like perfect. I mean, there's almost zero play in it. There's zero up and down. The side thrust is fine. It's in beautiful shape. So what we need to do first is inspect this transmission, and basically all that you need to do is look at the overall condition of the gears. Make sure there's no gears that look like they're excessively worn or anything. And the most important part is to look at these dogs in the inside here. If they're rounded over with excessive wear, what will happen is when it tries to engage into the other gear, it'll have a tendency to slip out of gear. So you got to make sure that all the dogs are nice and fairly fresh. And in this case, if you look at these dogs on this gear, this gear slides back and forth. They are almost like brand new in there. So they're in very good shape. And we'll look at the other one, and it's got two gears that slide back and forth, and if you look, you can see the dogs are almost like brand new in there. If you look here, if I can, let me get this out of the way, but you can't hardly see in there, but there's dogs in there that are just fresh, and the mating surfaces on the gears are also just like new. So that's really what you need to do to inspect your transmission. It's not a lot to it. You can see the dogs on the inside, and when they're worn, you can really see it. They're shiny and rounded over. So the next thing we need to do is go on ahead and we've identified that we've got all the bearings ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to start installing all these bearings. That is basically the first thing you end up doing when you do any of this stuff. A little bit of grease in that, but get all your bearings in first. If you try to put them on the shafts and then put them in, you will struggle like crazy. You always want your bearings done first, excuse me. So what we're going to do here is, first we'll do is just take a regular ball peen hammer, and let's just see if they just go in and tap right in. And look at that, they're just going right in without any real issue. Just work your way around, be very careful. Go around in a circle, and the bearing is in. No big deal. Okay. Now we have another bearing here, and this particular one's got a seal on one side of it, but it's got clips that actually hold it in place. So you can take and we can put this in from either side. Don't leave part of your glove in there. But we'll go on ahead and tap this one in and see how it does. Yep, it wants to tap right in. And I'm just being very gentle. I could use a hammer that's it falls right in. And we're in good shape. So now there's a clip that goes on the inside of this, and so we may as well get that in. We'll take this clip, make sure it's all clean, make sure it's clean because we don't want it goopy. And that clip goes right in here. And we just take a pair of pliers and we can go on ahead and snap that into place. And that clip is in place. Alright, and we'll go on ahead and we're going to push this bearing back against that clip because there's a plate that goes on this. So we may as well put that plate on. Okay, so we have this plate that goes on there. Let me just make sure it's cleaned up. It's nice. We'll put this on, and I think what we're going to do here is we're just going to take a little bit of blue Loctite and put them on the screws, just because. They don't really say to do it, but it isn't going to hurt to put a little Loctite on that. There we go. A little bit of blue Loctite. And then we're going to use a number 3 screwdriver, the right size. And we'll do the next one. Get that started, and we'll get this one started. Okay. And we'll throw some Loctite on this bad boy. What we just did is just, this is a different case, so we just had an extra case, and we can now, we had some extra parts there. And what I might do on these, because they were so tight on the other ones, we're just going to take the impact and we will turn the impact that way, make sure it's tight, and we're just going to give it a couple light taps. Done. Those 2 bearings are installed. We're in good shape. Okay, so onto our crank bearings here. And we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to go in on ahead and tap them in gently. And if we find that it takes too much effort to put them in, we'll heat up the case a little bit. And it started making a different sound. And as soon as it makes a different sound, you're done. You don't need to go wailing on it any more than that. So our bearings are in. Now we've got to put in, we're going to put in the inner seal on this one. The Suzuki's use a crank seal on the inside, so this bearing gets lubricated from the transmission, which is good and bad. The seal does last longer that way, and the bearing does get good lubrication. Problem is, if you got to change it, it means you have to split the cases to go change that seal, which is no fun. We have a choice of seals here. This one's got 1 spring on it, 1 seal side. This particular seal's got 2. I think probably the best way to do this is to use the 2-sided one. You know, because it's going to seal.
OEM seal looks like.
Yeah, it's close. I think that this is a better quality seal, better type seal. So all that we need to do is just basically put it in the same way that we put in a bearing. Gently tap it in. And the idea here is to put it in as straight as you can. You could use a seal driver on it, but I don't think I have anything that big, although I do have a big socket. Let's see if this socket is big enough to go around that. Oh yeah, it is. And we'll just take a soft hammer and do that. And we'll just take a soft hammer and just kind of work, just finish it off. Even on this side. So our crank seal is in. It's even all the way around in here. Feeling
very nice. Yeah.
Set of bearings. Now we're going to go to this set of bearings. Move these hammers and stuff out of the way. Edge of the bench, and
okay,
we'll let John go on ahead and put these in. So we've got bearings. We got the big bearing. We got a smaller bearing, and we should have one more here somewhere. And this guy right here. Here's our other transmission bearing, and it's going to go here. So I'm gonna hand it over to him, and we will watch him go on ahead and do that. Now what you want to do is just very gently get it started, and just get it so it's work your way around. It's a little, yeah. There you go. There you go. Tap right in. Okay. Good. You're done. It changed sound. You're done. The idea is to get them started very as straight as you can, because it'll start to go in. I can see the bearings like this. You need to tap on this side over here.
It's hard to see.
Gently, gently, work your way around. And that's probably it right there.
Yeah, I think it is.
Let me just take a feel of it here. I'm going to put the camera back in the tripod here. I just want to make sure. There we go. Feel
So
it.
this one should be
Okay, you're okay.
All right.
You're good. And back to you.
Thank you.
And again, the same. Now, the one thing you do want to do before you do this, just make sure that's clean with your finger.
Okay.
Okay.
Would be good to access that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And see, you're crooked, so just keep on. Yeah. That's right. It really, it almost starts to drop in. And you're crooked again. Gently. Gently, gently. You're crooked. You're not straight in yet. Okay, I think you got it. Okay, so the bearings are in. So now we got a seal that needs to go in here. Nope. Yep. Now you got a ways to go.
Yeah. I'm trying to see, make sure
You want it flush.
Yeah.
Perfect. Even. You see, you're way crooked. Keep it even.
This little
Yeah, you just gotta kind of be gentle with it. get it started. If it starts to pop out, use your hand. No, that's not the way to do it. Here, we'll do this. So when you do it, what you want to do is you get it started, and you want to keep it as even as you can all the way around.
Okay.
And if it pops out, you just need to be gentle and just work the other side. And this is probably why you use the flat pull or a big socket, but you can do it this way. All the way in, no drama. No tearing it up. Just gentle.
Or a big socket to go on top.
Yeah, and that would be better.
Yeah.
You know, but you still have to get it right.
Yeah,
you know, I think, but you can do it this way. And
Okay.
we're good to go with that. So now the next thing we need to do is get our Kickstarter out of the old case. Okay, so what John is doing is going on and putting in there is a piece inside that moves this pawl out of the way so it's not engaged to the gear. Good enough. Use that to fold those over.
Should we do it now or wait?
Now. Okay, so what we did is we put on this plate right here so that when this guy engages, it'll fit in underneath. Now, what we did look at is on this, there is a punch mark here. I don't know if you can see it. There's a punch mark right here, and there's a punch mark on the gear on this pawl right here. And you just make sure that those two are lined up, and then the shaft can now go back into the case. And let me just do that. I got my hands on it. And then he'll just sit in underneath like that. So now there's a spring. Let me get this out of the way so you can see. There's a spring, there's a cup that holds the spring, and then there's a okay. So basically what has to happen here is there's a hook on this spring. Let's see if you can make sure we're seeing it. There's a hook on this spring, and there's a hole in here, and then that lines up with that, and this cup just kind of keeps that spring from doing anything weird. He hooks there, and when this goes down, it gets hooked inside. And now what we know, here's the one thing that we do know, is that what we want to do is we want to make sure that this shaft gets turned back to where it needs to go. So basically what ends up happening is you have to wind this spring. We have to wind this spring so that it inserts into this hole. And the best way to do that is with like a pair of pliers like this, and you just wind it and insert it into the hole. And now you can take this spacer, push it in, and there's a little clip that holds that on. Okay, so let me help with this a little bit. So usually what you want to do when you got a clip like this and you're trying to, and John is having a little trouble getting it started, and it's a little hard because it's just a little strange, but what you want to do, if you're having trouble, just lay it on where it needs to go, and then take your pliers, and then you can kind of hold it on and it goes right on.
Oh, very good.
And it's in the groove. Done. Just that simple.
Very cool. So the shaft is in, mechanism is in. All right.
Okay. So, and we don't have to deal with this because before we put on the clutch, then there's another gear that fits on here, and this indexes into that gear, and that allows the Kickstarter to work. So the next thing that we need to do is, well, we're going to be putting the crankshaft in and the transmission. So what we're going to do here first is find a couple 2x4s to set this up on, because you know we don't have a specialized holder or anything like that, but we do have some 2x4s, or we used to anyway. And really not a big deal. Just take a 2x4, set this here, get this guy, and we have our own homemade little engine stand. Okay, so now we have the crankshaft. I need to do a little cleaning on it, so we'll be back after it's clean. Okay, so we're about ready to put the crank in. I did a little cleaning on the shafts, got everything kind of cleaned up and nice. You know, this crank is in wonderful shape. It has got zero lash. I mean, it is just in really good shape. It's got some carbon buildup. This has basically been sitting around for a long time, and the piston was seized pretty badly, so there was a lot of blow-by and carbon buildup. So anyway, what we're going to do here is we're getting ready to put this crank in, and the way to put the crank in is we're just going to heat up this inner race here, but we're not going to use the torch because there's a seal on the other side. We don't want to burn it up. So what we're going to do is just use a heat gun, and that's plenty enough to warm up that bearing. Is that on high or low?
On high.
Okay. And it's not a lot of heat, but it gives you a good head start on it. Because basically what you end up doing here is you just end up tapping the crank in. We could go over to a press and press it in if it needed to, but I doubt if it does. It's gonna pop right in. The tolerances aren't usually that tight.
Is that good enough, or?
Huh?
A bit longer?
A little bit. Just give it a couple. We'll just give it a. And that should be enough. Okay. Turn that off, and here's our. Just turn this over, and it's all yours. No. Yes. Okay, gently, just be gentle with it. There it goes. Just and make sure just tap it in because it's not in yet. Now you give it a bit of a turn. Oh, it's in. Yeah, just give it a bit of a turn. So yeah, just give it a couple taps. It's fine. It's in. That's all. And the only thing that held it up was the seal. It just hadn't gone by the seal yet. As a matter of fact, yeah, we're okay. Yep. We're in good shape. Okay, so that's that. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to start putting together our transmission. So there are two shafts that go into the transmission. This one going through is going to be for the clutch. This one is actually just the end of a shaft, and then the counter shaft will be sticking up as it goes in, but we also have shift forks and a shift drum that goes in here. Okay, so the shift drum goes in this side, but there are two plates that hold it in place. So we're going to put a little Loctite on each of the screws, and John will go on ahead and put them in. So what we want to do here is we want to get our shifts, our transmission ready. To do that, we want to get our gears lined up. Now, this side of the case is the clutch side of the case, so this is where the clutch goes. And what we want to do here, and I'm going to let John do this, is we've got washers on each of these, so we already know that the washers are in place for this side of it. So he needs to insert this transmission the way it needs to go. And what he's going to find out is that this shaft goes forward and this shaft goes to the back. and just kind of spin them together and drop them down.
All right.
Okay, so the next thing we need to do, we're going to turn this around. It's getting heavier. We're going to turn this around so that we all can see, but we need to insert our shift drum in here. But what we also need to do is get our shift forks in place. Now, and what we did have to do here is we moved the shafts over to this side of the case, because this case goes together backwards from most others. It bolts. Yep, you're good. Okay, so what we're going to do here also is we put the dowel pins in the other case because I thought the cases went together the other way. We're going to put the dowel pins in the way that they need to go. Okay, we've inserted our gasket. We got our dowel pins in. We're going to put a little heat on the bearing here so that it will expand a little bit and it'll make our job easier to put this crank in. And we need to snip this out of the way. And the reason for that is because the rod will push the gasket out of place if you leave it in. Only in the middle. And just kind of wave it around in the middle a little bit. There you go. There's a seal in there. We don't want to cook it. Okay, that's good enough. On the outside. Okay, so we're going to be kind of holding this thing. I'll let John do this. He's learning.
Maybe you need to hold the bottom part for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch what's going on here. There's a washer here, but I think we're okay. Yeah. You got to get the crankshaft in there. There you go. Let's kind of see how it lines up. Yeah, you're real close here. We're done. Oh, perfect. Good. There's that. Nice and tight. We're good.
And this sealed pretty good after
Yeah.
you?
Okay, so now let's find some screws and get this thing cranked down.
How did you...
I'm just gonna start winding these down. You don't need to learn how to do screws, that's for sure. Okay,
Suzuki,
so let's get
right?
this gear on here. And what we're gonna find is there's a washer. You wanna look in your diagram? We're gonna see a washer here. We're gonna see a bearing.
There's a spring.
A bearing. And then we're gonna see...
What is this? Is that the bearing? Yeah. There's a washer underneath and the bearing, and then the wheel, and then the washer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's take a look and we look at that.
Let me see. Can I see the bearing? I don't know what that was that for. So that so that way that turns on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
And again, we'll take the method that I used before. Okay, so now we'll just take that and snap it into place. We're good to go. That's that. Well, yeah, this drives the oil pump. This, I don't, yeah. Oh, there's, yeah.
No, it's all put together
Yeah,
already.
it's all put together. Yeah, that's it. This just goes like that. Here's the gear.
So that drives the clutch.
This drives the clutch. Yeah, this is what drives your whole engine. I'm just gonna tap this into place. That's all. Okay. And this guy goes here. And it's just a pin that's kind of holding it. So now we can take this guy. And whenever you put on one of these, there's a flat side and there's a little rounded over. So And to put on the clutch, now that we've got the cases all together, everything is all in nice shape or in neutral, everything just as clean and as nice as it could be, we need to put together the clutch. So there is a big washer that goes on there. Then you can just put on the clutch basket. And we'll put this guy here. And there's a little groove in here, and that just pulls oil in. And this guy goes and meshes into there. And what we have to do here is, in the back, we're going to make sure that these gears mesh into that. So when the Kickstarter goes, when this turns, it'll turn the engine. If you look at oil, we've got another big washer, and a really big, thick one that goes here. Okay, and the next thing we need is our clutch hub. And then there will be a maybe we take this and we'll take our perfect amount of torque right here. Okay, we've got our clutch hub all done. This one uses, the case is what pulls the clutch in place. So this is all the plates. This real quick. All right. So what we have here is the starting plates, because of the fact that when we look at our pressure plate, we can see it's had wear on it, so that is going to be up against a regular clutch plate. If it didn't have wear on it, it would be against the metal plate. And because of the fact there's no backup plate, you have to start with the metal plate on this. And you just pop it in there. Then the next one.
Do clutches ever go bad? I never see a bad one.
Oh, they go bad sometimes.
But it's bad?
Huh? No, I'm just looking at the. Was it kind of out of order? And when you look at these plates, now these got some discoloration on them, but there's very little wear on them. But there's a rounded edge and there's a sharper edge. The sharper edge always goes to the outside. Now, I read that in a manual somewhere, and it in all the clutches I've taken apart from the factory have always been that way. And then the pressure plate just goes on. I don't believe this one's indexed. I don't see any marks on here. And you'll know, as soon as you do this, if it goes all the way down, which it does, and contacts the plates, you're in good shape. And there's 6 springs. Now there's going to be 6.
There's one more spring.
This one might go right there.
Okay.
There's that washer that you were looking at. And then we're missing a spring, but I know they're here. I know it's here. I saw it.
Yeah.
Then you just get these started. Maybe. Okay, and now what we'll do is we'll take this guy off of here. And now we just need to go on ahead and wind down the pressure plate screws. Just and I'll check the tightness of each one. And we're good to go. Okay, to start getting this side of the engine put together, we just need to put in our woodruff key first while everything is out in the open. And sometimes they're a little hard to get in there. You just got to kind of, sometimes you just have to tap them in. So all in, all good to go with that. Then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to put in our stator stuff, and we'll get the grommet lined up so it goes in, and then we need to just get everything lined up. This way. Now inside here, there's some marks, and whenever you're dealing with any kind of Japanese markings, and there's several markings, you always start at the middle. This has got some markings on it so you can change it a few degrees if you want to, but in this case we want to get this one lined up dead in the center one. If you can see that, let me see if I can get a good angle there. We want to line it up at dead in the center. There's a little mark, all these little marks right here, and there's always a middle one. And just line it up in the center, and you're good to go with that. If you need to change your timing, you can then, remove the rotor and go on ahead and move the timing. But for the most part, always leave it in the center. Stock timing is always usually the best. There we go. All right, so now we've got it in the center, and we're just going to put some screws in it. Yeah, anytime you do, like even carburetors, if you're adjusting the needle, start in the center, because that's the way they came from the factory. They never come up or down. It's always in the center. That's where they need it to be. That's where they want it, and then they give you some adjustment either way. Okay, that's on. Now the next thing we need to do is get this guy on, and he's all cleaned up, ready to go. And then you just very carefully just kind of figure out where it needs to go in the first place, because the magnet's fairly strong, and then you can feel it. Whoop, we're losing our here, let's get that 2x4 back up there, something like that. Let's get the 2x4 adjusted a little bit better. There we go. Get this. It's hitting something. No, we need to hit it right. Okay, out there we go. And we just want to miss the gear. There we go. Okay, so it's basically aligned fairly well. It's not dragging at all. We're in good shape with that. So now we just need to find our nut, and we'll go from there. Yeah. So anyway, so we're ready with our, and then we'll just roll this guy on, and away we go. Yeah, we could torque that down to, a specified amount, but whatever it is, this is just get it good and tight. And that's that. So next, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take, and there's a spacer that goes in here, and let's see if we can get the camera where we can see what's going on. Yeah, okay. We got this spacer that goes on the countershaft sprocket, but if you look inside here, there's it's beveled, and that requires an O-ring. And if you don't have it in there, it just leaks just a little teeny tiny bit. So this guy actually sits down in that O-ring like that. So you just put this on first. Then you can put this guy on and slide it into the seal. And now you take your counter shaft, and we'll put that with it facing out. Always, if there's any lettering on it, always make sure it's facing out. And the reason for that, so you can see if it has numbers, you can actually see how many how many teeth it has. So we've got a nice cleaned up washer here, and we'll roll this on. Let me get a socket for this. So we've got this guy. We're going to roll this on. We've got a 32 millimeter socket. All nice and pretty. And we're just going to use our impact to put that on. And these impacts are just about the right amount of torque for this stuff. You don't need the big Super Duty ones that are, you know, again, we're not dealing with huge horsepowers these days. So now we just take a chisel and we'll bend that back up. And we'll just take this and slide it underneath there. And we're just using the chisel to get it started. And then we'll finish up with a pair of pliers. And we're all set. So that part's done. Our neutral is in there. Our shift shaft is there. We don't have an oil pump, do we? Okay, well, the oil pump will go on later. He's putting that on later, but that's okay. So now what we're going to do here is we are going to flip this guy over, because we're ready to work on the other side. Okay. Should be good. All right, get this guy sitting back into place. Okay, and now this is basically what we're going to be doing here is put the gears back on that fell off when we were doing this. They're all good. We're in good shape. And so now it's time to put on the cover. So we're going to let John do all that. Okay, what John is doing, he's taking some gasket cinch and he's putting it on the outside case here. And the reason that he's doing it is what's going to happen here is we're also going to put some on the surface of the gasket, and we'll use it like contact cement. So you can set that down to dry. And now you can go on ahead, and the gasket goes on this way, so you're going to be putting gasket cinch.
How long do you wait?
Oh, just a couple minutes. Just put a coating on that. No, it's not. There you go. No, no.
Thanks for explaining.
Not too thick, just nice even coat. That's fine. Okay.
Do wait or do it?
Go ahead. Make sure all the screw holes line up, or you're going to have trouble. just kind of press it on with your finger, just making sure that the screw holes line up.
Looks okay.
Okay, now, well, we're going to put this on the engine, and the only thing that you have to be aware of when you put this on the engine, we've already got a seal in here, so we're in good shape, is the direction of this guy. Now, when you put it on, you're going to see that it needs to be facing something like this. And hold on for a minute, is you have to look in here, and what you see is this gear, and this has got to mesh with this. And this thing can just turn, because it does turn. So what you need to do is make sure that when this goes on, that it is facing in about the right angle. And it's about like that. Now, take this, get this lined up, and then just gently work it into place. And this guy is engaged, and just kind of gently run them down. Just kind of cross. Yeah, there's one. No, go over here. Go over here. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, or just crisscross your way across. Okay, now take the number 3 screwdriver, which is sitting right there, and check them all by hand. Get it nice and tight by hand. Oops. Gently, gently. Push it down. There you go.
That impact really makes them tight.
Yeah, they're tight. You just want to make sure you got them.
Okay.
Very good.
And
So
we have to do those 2 things.
yeah, well, you got some plugs that you need to put in there. So you got the drain plug here. This is the yeah. This one here is your oil level screw. So he's got a brand new screw for that, I believe. And yeah, he's got a new fiber washer.
There's a little edge on the powder coat there.
Okay, wait, what we'll do here,
Maybe a little tap.
we have some technology here that works. Okay. So what we're going to use here is, this is not a tap. This is a rethreader. And what this does, it takes existing threads and cleans them up. So all we have to do with this is we screw this guy in, get him started, and we will go on ahead. Now, what you want to do with this, though, is we're going to take and we're going to put a little bit of grease on these threads. Not much, just not enough to make a mess, but just enough to catch any of the powder coating in there, so that it doesn't fall down the engine, just get stuck on here. And we have to be gentle here and make sure we get it started right, and that's started correctly. And then we just take a small ratchet and we'll just work it in. And again, this does not cut threads, it repairs them. And now all the powder coating is in those little grooves. It's not in the engine. And look at that. It just goes on there just beautifully. And again, you see this doesn't really cut threads.
So, what is this one, Ted? Is this the,
That is a drain plug for the crankcase.
And then this is a drain plug as well?
This is a drain plug for the transmission.
Okay.
This is the crankcase in case you get loaded up too much
So
and it gets too full. You can take it and drain it right from here.
should we replace this washer or is it okay?
Well, they're okay. These are just fine. Yeah, and when you need to, on these, on the Suzukis, if you don't have a 21, a spark plug socket works. And this 13/16 is what size it is. And that's that. Well, it's been about a week. We had a problem. We were missing a wrist pin circlip. And so John ordered some new ones. They have arrived. He's on his way over, so we'll get back to it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing is putting together a top end. So we have a nice new piston. We've got a nice cleaned up wrist pin, a bearing, and we got some circlips, and we've got a new set of rings. On the TS400, these rings are the same. It doesn't matter which way they go, just as long as you get them right side up. And the knock pins are always, the knock pins have a groove cut out of the rings, and that's always at the top. The piston won't, you can't get the cylinder on if you do these wrong. Okay, so the first thing we want to do here is we need to get we'll get a little bit of oil, so we have that handy here. And I'm going to just we're going to take our bearing, which is all cleaned up. We're just going to give this thing a few drops of oil in here first, get it spread around in there so we got a good start on oil. Oop. Don't want to get too much on the gasket. Then the next thing we want to do is we want to put in one of the circlips before you get started, so you're not hovering over the engine with it. So the best way to do that is get a good pair of needle nose, and you grab it, and what you're going to do here is you're just going to take it. I'm just going to see if I can't, and we're just going to roll that baby in like that. And then the next thing you want to do is, once it's clipped in and it's made it all the way around, you want to take and grab it and move it so that the gap of the circlip is either at 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And that way, when the piston's going up and down real fast, it doesn't have a tendency to let that thing compress. It's a simple thing to do. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, now that we've got that, we'll take some oil, get some on our wrist pin. You don't need to overdo it with this. This engine never really runs with a lot of oil in it. It's not like a 4-stroke where you have tons of oil. The only oil that gets to this stuff is what's in the gas, or what's injected by the injection pump. So now we're just going to take this and we push in our pin. No sweat. We're all good to go. So now we're going to put in our other clip. But before we do that, we're going to take a rag and we're going to go on ahead and do that. And the reason for that is, if you drop the clip fooling around with this thing, it doesn't fall down in the engine. And then we'll just take this guy and do the same thing. We'll wind it in, snap it into place. I need to get a little bit of angle here. Do it this way. We'll go to the other side and do it. And we can rotate it around this way. And now our clip The end of our clip is at 12 o'clock, and we're ready to go with that. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is our rings. And again, there's on the back of the piston there's something called knock pins, and what the knock pins do is hold the rings from rotating, because on a two-stroke, if the rings rotate, the ring can fall into one of the ports, so the rings need to be captured. And the way that this works is it just goes in, and again, when we put on the piston, I failed to mention that, but there's an arrow and it's always pointing toward the exhaust. Always, always, always. Big cylinders like this are really easy to do. You can do them with your fingers. You don't have to do anything special. But we're going to turn this around. We can see. And if we look, there's something called a knock pin, and it's right here. And there's another one over here. And those basically go on either side of the intake port, in essence. So what we want to do is we get our little, where our knock pin goes, we have that pointing up, and we'll just take, and we can take this and put it on our piston. And we rotate it around, and you'll see it doesn't want to go past the knock pin. Okay, same drill with the other one. Make sure it's facing up. And we put it on, and here's our knock pin. And when I try to rotate it, I can't get it to go around that. And it's just that simple. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure we've got oil in things. This bearing over here on the clutch side gets lubricated by the transmission oil, so it's already got some lubrication on it. But what we're going to do is I'm going to take a needle oiler. I'm just going to blow some down this hole here, because that's usually what happens is the gas oil drips down in there. And I think I'll put a little bit down each of the oil holes, and we'll just let that be. At least it's got some oil in there for starting off. Then the next thing we want to do is we need to get some oil on our piston and around our ring. So we just take some. I'm just going to distribute a little oil here and there, just so it has some. And this thing is perfectly clean and everything is brand new and nice. And I'll just put a little oil on here. Okay. So the next thing you need to do is put on the cylinder. And it is a one-man job. It's not really a hard thing to do. You just kind of have to get a hold of things, and before you do anything, make sure your rings are lined up. So the top ring's up against the knock pin, and then the bottom ring's up against the knock pin, and you're going to be squeezing them together like this, and we will keep your fingers in there, and then we can work the cylinder on. The good part is that this has got studs here, and it makes it easier to manipulate the cylinder. If these studs were long, you got to drop it on, and then you got to manipulate the piston more. But this is not bad. We just take this, and we just take this and just kind of wobble it on, and that's that. It's usually not that easy for some, but I've done literally, it's got to be counting into thousands at this point. So the next thing we need to do is we need to put our nuts on here to hold that on, and a brand new set right here. And we will grab a 14mm wrench and just snug these down. And we start by making them fairly even. You don't want to get crazy at first, and you just want to evenly run these down. tighter. Okay, get this one a little tighter. Get this one. And this one. And basically, I'm just squeezing the lock washers together at this point. Okay. So now, we'll start again on this one. And we'll get this one fairly tight this time. Okay, they're all fairly tight. Now we're going to give it the final push. Get them all as even as you can feel. And our cylinder is locked in place. So now we've got the cylinder in place. Everything is nice. It goes up and down beautifully. I'm just going to give it a little squirt of oil just for laughs. Just because I can. You don't want to go too much because then it's just going to smoke like crazy and do all sorts of crazy things, but that's all it needs. So next is we need to deal with the head gasket. The head gaskets on these are reusable. And so what you want to do is this one doesn't look like it's been leaking, so that's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean it up and get it ready for its next use. So I've cleaned off all of the excess carbon on this, and all we need to do to get this ready for its next thing is we need to anneal it. And you just heat it up. Hot, hot, hot. Turn over. Thank you. And that's all you need to do, and that gasket is ready to go again. Okay, so now the cylinder head is in beautiful shape. Our head gasket is ready to go, and it fits right in there. And all that you need to do is just lay it in as it needs to go, and make sure your head gasket is in. So take a flashlight and look, and I can see that the head gasket is not in place. So you got to make sure that it is. And let's see if I can show you. It's good that this happened and I didn't just, but if you look, I'm going to try and get a light on it. If you look, you can see the edge of the head gasket, and there's too much of the cylinder showing. So once we get that head gasket into place, the cylinder will drop down. And I'm just going to poke at it. And then it dropped down. You heard it just go plopped into place, and we're good to go. Okay, now all that we need to do is we'll put on our washers and nuts, and we'll torque this cylinder head down. And I'm just starting everything by hand. Although it's a lot more fiddly because it's way down in there, it's better to do that than cross thread anything or something like that. And again, you could just take a socket and, you know, run it down with your hand, but that's okay. We've got this. We've got this under control. Well, kind of. And it runs down. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, so we're going to take our 14mm socket, and I'm just going to run these guys down by hand, very gently. And then what we're going to do is we are going to set up our torque wrench for 15 foot-pounds. How do I know this? Because I just do. It's in the book. If you don't believe me, it's in the book. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run these down to about 7 or so first, just to make things nice and even. Okay, so now we can run it down to 15. And we'll just start here, and we'll just crisscross our way across. And let's go here. Okay, everything is torqued down to 15 foot-pounds nice and evenly, and basically this engine is good to go. We still have a couple more things that we're going to be doing, but it's basically done. So now that's all done, and so the next thing we need to do is we've got the compression release, and it just goes in here, and getting it tight can be fun.
Actually, you have to put the cable in, so it's probably easier.
Oh yeah, I'll let you. I'll just. We're gonna finger tighten that, and then he's got to get the cable in, so he's gonna have to pull it out and just put it in. So we'll leave that like that. Okay, so we've got a Suzuki multimeter. These are very, very rare. They don't exist anymore. You won't be able to find them. I bought this new, probably in 1972. So it is, we're setting it up on the R times 1 scale. And the first thing you do with that is to make sure it's okay, you just go on ahead and you zero out the meter. There's a little adjustment knob right here, and you zero it out. And so what we're going to be doing here is we'll take and we're going to hook up our ground to one side, and we'll just clip on to another one. And we're reading about 200 and actually it looks like about 220 some odd ohms. That's about what the book said it would be. We'll go to the other side, and it's reading about 40-ish ohms. And the book says 75 or something of that nature. But I've seen them anywhere from 35 to 85, and they work just fine. It's just the different manufacturers have done different things with them, and over time, if somebody has replaced one of the coils or just used a different deal, it's going to read something slightly different. What you want to make sure it's not open. So if it was open, the needle wouldn't do anything, and if it was shorted, the needle would go all the way to 0. But having a 30 ohm difference is really not a big deal. So that's all we have for the TS400 engine assembly. Yeah, we basically went through the whole process of from split cases, putting in the bearings, getting the transmission looked at, getting the top end on. This is just a basic how to do it. It's a good enough guide to be able to get you through whatever. It doesn't go into great detail, but it's something that you can use to at least show you the whole process. If you've never done it before, look at it, watch what's going on, watch the video, and then you'll be ready to at least do your own. And if you've done a bunch of them, well, then you don't really need to do much more, but this gets you through it anyway. So with all that being said, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you next time here on GearHeadGeeks.